Hey guys, we are here with Allie Ruschell. She is the head coach's wife at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and we're going to ask her a few questions. Okay, Allie, so Jim Miller, the director at the Dan Gable Museum, and Tim Johnson, your father, were best mans at each other's wedding. In fact, Jim named his son TJ after your dad. So that's kind of a cool story. Can you give me a little bit of your background in wrestling?
So, I was raised in the sport. My dad was broadcasting my entire life, starting with Iowa Public Television, and then was really good friends with the Illinois wrestling coach, so we were always going to wrestling meets. And then when Big Ten Network came around, we started doing Big Ten Network. And then when I was in college, I got to intern for Big Ten Network and ESPN because he was broadcasting, so I could go to Big Tens and Nationals and get the winning wrestlers and take them to their interviews. And so it's just been my whole life.
That's awesome. How was interning for ESPN and Big Ten Network?
It was awesome because it was just for wrestling, and so it was my favorite thing. And then being in college and around college wrestlers,
right?
Loved it.
Oh yeah, that sounds like the perfect job or internship.
Right.
That is great. Okay, so you and Kyle have been together for 4.5 years now. Can you tell me how you guys met?
Yes. So, because of my internship, I knew who Kyle was. I was at Indiana University while he was wrestling for Wisconsin. I knew he was a really great wrestler because I was always taking him to the interviews when he would win. And then fast forward 4 years after we had graduated college, I was going to Midlands with my dad because we always would go after Christmas. And I saw him coaching and I was like, this is pretty cute. I was living in Colorado Springs at the time, transitioning to move to Chicago. And so I was like, I'm going to friend him on Facebook. He'll message me. He didn't message me. And so it was like a few days after I had done the friend request and whatever, and I hate Facebook, like I'm never on, so I made an effort. And he was still competing on the national team, and I saw that they were out at the training center, and so I sent a really awkward message of like, I remember walking you to your interview, like something stupid. And it was right at the time he got what he thought was his career-ending injury at the training center and was flown back to Madison. So we Facebook messaged for 3 months. He wouldn't ask for my number. I refused to give it because I had done all the work so far. And
You had to work for something.
I did. And so at NCAA's that year in St. Louis, we had a plan to meet up after finals. He finally asked for my number like the Wednesday we got to St. Louis. So we were still texting or whatever, and then we met up after finals. I brought a friend, he had friends with him, and the rest is history.
That is awesome. I love that. I like that you made him work for asking for your number.
Yeah, well, I'd done everything else for him, so yeah.
He's going to watch this and laugh. Okay, so what was y'all's first official date like?
So 2 weeks after that, I had moved to Chicago, and his roommate at the time was dating a girl who happened to live a mile away where I was living in Chicago. So they came down together, and we all went to dinner together, and then Kyle and I went to a Cubs game, just us. And it was like fun and awkward. Like looking back on it, we were so awkward.
That's perfect. I love that. So did the Cubs end up winning the game?
I don't even remember because it was Cubs versus Reds. He's a big Reds fan,
Okay.
and so I don't even remember. Because I was so nervous. So
That must mean it went really well then. Okay, so I know that you guys were not together when he was in college. However, his Pan Am tournament, you guys were. And can you tell me a little bit about how you handled the stress of that?
it was crazy. It was right before our wedding, and Bill called Kyle and was like, "You still have your visa?" And I was like, "Yeah," because it lasts for 10 years or whatever. And so with 3 days notice, he's like, "We need you just to weigh in," because they just needed him to like step on the mat to qualify the weight. And so Kyle was like, "Well, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna compete. Like I'm not just gonna go for nothing."
Yeah.
And then it was the weekend of like my bridal shower, my birthday, and he went and he teched his way through the tournament, which was awesome. And it was just fun to see because there was like a little bit of like heckling of like, why Kyle Ruschell? Why are we getting this guy there or whatever? And so it was fun. And I was really stressed out because I'd never watched him compete as his fiance, obviously. And I was watching on the computer, and then I think think it was his second match, it just completely blacked out and like lost the feed, and so I didn't know how he did until it like came across the ticker like 10-15 minutes later that he had teched that one too. I was like, okay, we're good. But I was screaming at the computer. And
Oh, I can imagine.
yeah.
Oh man. How do you think that Kyle handled the stress of planning the wedding stuff and missing your birthday and missing the bridal shower and trying to compete?
I think he didn't really, I mean, for the bridal shower thing, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But he just kind of saw it as, we were like, you have to do it. Like, when does an opportunity like this come the way it came? Like, there was no question. And it was kind of less pressure, that there was zero expectation for him. And so he was like sitting by the pool the day before, already at weight, because he didn't have to cut. Like, all the things just worked out, and he had like no stress really, even though it was a crazy time for us, but it kind of worked out perfectly.
That's beautiful. I love how it just kind of fell into place for him to compete.
It was fun for him,
right?
And it worked out. Yeah.
That's a good experience. Okay, so as we know, Kyle was the assistant coach at Wisconsin, and now he is the head coach at the University of Tennessee. Can you tell me a little bit about the move from Big Ten school to SoCon, and what are some differences with that?
There's a lot of differences, for sure. We're both Big Ten kids that went to school in the Big Ten and used to like facilities and the budget and all the things that come with it. And so it's kind of a shock to the system sometimes when it comes to what we're used to being given when it comes to like athletics or like what the guys are provided with, that we have a lot less in the SoCon. But it makes us work harder and more creatively in different aspects of the sport and like for the guys or for what we're trying to do. And Kyle's definitely learning a lot by being a head coach in the SoCon as his first head coaching position. He has to do a lot more in many different areas that he wouldn't have had to do at a bigger conference. If that was his answer. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely, no, it does. It does. So with those differences and him having more, I don't want to say stress, but more responsibility.
Less staff.
Yes.
Like, we don't have a director of ops position. So like a director of ops. Like, it's just like the things that we don't have, certain things that we were just so used to having in the Big Ten. And so just doing more than what we would have had to do in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I like how you say we. That gives me a little bit of insight that you guys are teamwork, and I like how you say you're kind of taking over the hat of director of operations. With that being said, can you tell me a little bit about your role with the wrestling team?
So, like, when I say director of ops, I kind of have given myself that title this year. I've taken over social media, so that's another thing. Like, we don't have, at Wisconsin, we had an amazing, like, social media director, videographer, like all the things, and it's like we don't have that now. And so just taking over that kind of stuff, because it's what the guys want, what recruits want to see, like it's fun and it's a big deal. And so I do our social media, and
which is not easy.
it's not easy. We only had 600 followers when we got down there. We have 3,600 now.
Heck yes, girl, that's awesome.
Follow UTC Wrestling.
Yes, go follow UTC Wrestling, guys.
And then I also do our events and fundraising. So we started RTC South because they don't have a regional training center down there. So we have Daniel Dennis down there. He's our RTC coach. And so with that, we have a lot of fundraising opportunity, and just building that has been a big thing for me and a big part of what I've been doing with Kyle down there, just to kind of like expand what we're trying to do with like Southern wrestling and build it up, because there's so many good wrestlers there that are kind of flying under the radar. So
Oh, absolutely. I think the South is a hidden gem for wrestling, and I don't think anybody has figured that out, but I'm glad that you guys have and are shedding some light on
I
that.
kind of want to just keep it
Right? In the radar, right?
Don't look that way.
don't go recruit down there. I love it. So you worked at the U.S. Olympic Committee out in Colorado Springs. How has that helped you to try and grow the Mox wrestling community in the areas that you've told us that you're trying to grow?
Yeah, I think it's helped just in my expectation when it comes to like fundraising. So I was in the development department. We did events and hospitality and worked with major donors for Team USA. And so like keeping that level of expectation when I do our fundraising at Chattanooga, I think has helped us where we really like elevate what we're trying to do. We need the small annual donations, but we also need some big hitters. And so I'm not uncomfortable with that, and that's what we need to be looking for and like stewarding. And so with that experience that I have, I'm passionate about it, and so it's fun to put it and merge it with wrestling and benefit the Mocs. So
I love that. You guys are really building something special down there. I'm excited to see where it grows. Okay, so clearly your family is really big and involved in wrestling. Can you tell me how much of the conversation is about wrestling when you guys have family get-togethers?
It's all of it. Most of our conversation. My dad loves asking Kyle like his insights to see if they like match up with my dad's insights. If my dad has a big broadcast coming up, he will call Kyle and like go through and see like who. It's funny because you'll hear a line that my dad says, and it's definitely like Kyle told him like he really goes inside to the left or what, I don't even know what it is. And my dad will like say it to Gibbons, and you're like, you got that from Kyle. But it's just fun because he can work with Kyle in that aspect, and then Kyle's family too. His dad and brother are both coaches at his high school and middle school, so like both sides, it's like all wrestling all the time, which is fun for us.
That is so awesome. Yeah. It's like in y'all's blood.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it.
Sure.
That's great. Okay, so how do you handle the stress of being at nationals, and how would you say that Kyle handles the stress of being at nationals?
So nationals is something I've been going to more than him. Like I was raised, it was my spring break from 13 on, and Kyle didn't even get into college wrestling, like even watching college wrestling till like he was a senior in high school, which is just so funny. But so since I'm kind of so used to the week and how stressful it is for everyone, it takes some stress off him to know he doesn't have to worry about me. I have my own hotel room. I'm with my family or people like taking care of our alumni, our parents, and he knows that I'm okay and he doesn't have to worry about me. So then that's nice for him that he can just strictly like coach. He's stressed for his guys, obviously. Like we've talked about, not everyone can have a great tournament no matter how much we want them all to do their best that same day. I think it's beneficial for our marriage that I am independent, and it helps him to be able to focus on what he needs to focus on without having to worry about, are you okay? Like, we're going into the arena now or whatever. He doesn't have to worry about that. I don't know.
I like how even though you're at nationals, your brain automatically went to, I'm taking care of the alumni, cheering on the guys. Like, it's almost like you're picking up in the areas for Kyle that he doesn't need to focus on in that moment.
Sure. And I don't
you're
want
like
to.
running with
it.
And that's like, just again, that shows how much teamwork is in y'all's marriage, and I really love that.
Yeah, it's special, and we love it, and we're both passionate about it, and so it's fun that it works out, that it's something we're both invested in. For sure. There's things that I don't want him to even know about because he shouldn't have to like worry about where our social is going to be that night or whatever.
Oh,
like,
no, absolutely.
Like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Where if he would have to worry about that because we don't have someone to do that if I wasn't doing it. So it's fun because I get to dive into what I love to do and be helping him at the same time.
Which is a blessing, and
Yes,
I'm sure he appreciates that so much as well, right?
Yes.
You've got a great wife, Kyle.
I don't know what people don't know. He's funny, and people don't really know how funny he is because it doesn't come off that way sometimes, but he'll like that when I said that he's funny. It's really funny.
I love that. Okay, so if you had to give a future girlfriend of a wrestler some advice, what would be one thing that you would tell her before getting into the relationship?
To know that when he can't like I don't know if it's like his time when it comes to like a last minute recruit or hosting recruits or anything that comes last minute, it has nothing to do with him not wanting to be with you. Like he would rather hang out with you. He doesn't want to have to go to a random last minute dinner with these parents or whatever it is. And so like not taking that stuff personally, and also being extremely flexible when it comes to your schedule. Like that was my hardest thing. When I'm very go with the flow. I didn't like it when like my friends would think that I was like making it up, that I really didn't know if Kyle could be there. Like there's plenty of weddings I've gone to by myself. Like be ready to go to events by yourself. It's fine. It's not a bad thing. And I think that was hard for me when my friends were like, well, why can't Kyle know? I'm like, I won't know until either the week of or the day before if he's really going to be there. And for them to be like not believing, I don't know, like that kind of thing, where it's just like you really have a last minute schedule all the time. Like you can't plan ahead, and it's what it is. So if you're okay with that, then by all means. But if you're very regimented in your schedule, I don't know if it's for you.
I think you're so correct about that. And I love how people always try and say like, oh, at March after Nationals, so are you enjoying the off season? And I'm like, there is no off season.
And whenever anybody asks you that too, I'm like, so when is the downtime? And I'm like, maybe the week after Nationals? Like I don't really know.
Maybe like a weekend,
Yeah,
but there's
like a long
never,
weekend or
right?
something? No.
There's never really any.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate having you, Allie, and go Mocs.
Yes.